Top stories making headlines tonight. Whistleblower Setlomo Tshwanelang claims formal complaints have been lodged against a certain news anchor. Stakeholders say there is a need for a balanced approach on wage setting while ensuring business thrive. And President Trump unveils a new 25% auto tariff set for next week. Good evening and welcome to our 7 p.m. live news. It's a great pleasure to have your company once again. I am Laune Dragano. Whistleblower Setlomo Raymond Tshwanelang has claimed that formal complaints have been lodged with the police against a certain news anchor. Tshwanelang says the allegations, which initially involved peeping on women, have escalated to a more serious misconduct to include sexual assault. He says some of the victims have come forward and reported the matter to the police.
Ke ba gape ke ipoeletsa se ke se buileng ka role se nnete mme bo bogompieno njana ke kgonne go taka the victims ba ileng gore ba diretse phoso ba ileng gore motswana o ka botsa gore why now Setlomo wena interest ya go keng na se be sa ka hela ke gore I shared a crime alert as a social activist, and that's how I became part of this thing. But the interesting part of it is that Hanzena dinale moswedile one need. So far I have 2 women, one who has experienced these things, another one Weta, another one Wota Homaka Iprele, another one when ya motshwere ko tlokweng a dira dio tsene tsena mme mo go motshwareng o ne ba ya ko police. The police failed them. Ebe ba khotenya o ta letso ta busa phone ka rena na motsere busupi mona letsa le maabane le phakela Setlomo. Now I want to come so that I can lay evidence or get the ha testimony gore ke reportile ra ba ra molletsa ra ba le go ga bone. And others, they have text messages, they have calls to prove that indeed this occurred. Yengwa khanye be nna gore ba bangwe bone ke nne ba sa report ha le gore bangwe ba reportile ba gaitso ga gona timeline ya go reporta khantse di tshwana le bo GBV ga gona timeline ya teng. There is no statutory limit e leng gore ga twe ka re go diregile dio yana. Some people ha ba bona no gore ga se nna hela, they come and report. So they are here now, and I'm very confident that we'll win. To lay a claim against him, to build these cases, and libo meboti baba filang gore they have been wronged by him. Kitabo libone ki ba ensure gore their cases ahead, their voices ahead.
As the discourse on the minimum wage has intensified following the recent political shift in the country, there's a general consensus that there's a need to find a balanced approach to a wage setting that promotes economic growth while ensuring fair compensation for workers. While government has urged companies to increase their minimum wage offer to 4,000 pula per month, which was one of the UDC government's signature promises in the 2024 elections, there is doubt on the other side as whether many businesses can afford that. Speaking at a recent forum on minimum wage, Minister of Labour Pius Mokhare said key stakeholders are in agreement with the government.
It is the right thing to do to increase to 4,000. From the recommendations. Because the gap between the poor and the rich. The working poor, but to our bereka, maybe bereka hosnasipe, because when you look at Botswana's household debt, it's so alarming. So alarming. How can Mara Pelamu to Caramel Refa? We very got to what they are bringing home. It's very painful. A man, a woman, and a husband, when you combined, in most instances, their salaries together, is very painful. They can't afford. because they cannot meet what we call a decent wage. Because we are saying, Botswana, they should live a decent wage. Botswana cannot afford a medical aid today. Botswana cannot afford a pension. So if you are going to allow organization not to make sure that Botswana pays some sort of a pension, you are increasing the numbers. Okay, it means you are postponing the problem. Why can't you pay people enough so that they can contribute for a pension which they can earn after some time?
I would advocate that we need something that also tells us a little bit more about the ability to pay. They did do some little bit of it, and I think we need to find some middle ground somewhere, which says if we can identify, as the studies have already done, those who are able to pay, let them start now. Because we can't wait and say, let people be sitting here and waiting. But the long-term issue about it really is you need a growing economy to be able to afford a high wage, which growth needs to be propelled mostly by total factor productivity, which comes a lot more from innovation, labor productivity itself, and that all of it requires a bit of our policy change in terms of making sure that businesses can come and thrive.
In commemoration of World Intellectual Property Day, the National Arts Council of Botswana hosted a gathering of creatives under the theme Feel the Beat of IP, aimed to raise awareness of the importance on intellectual property and its protection in the creative industry. In his address, the Minister of Sports and Arts, Jacob Gillibing, emphasized the government's commitment to safeguarding and advancing the work of creatives in Botswana. He assured the creatives that efforts would be made to ensure that intellectual property rights are respected and protected, enabling local talent to thrive.
As a legislator, the intention is to advocate for the systems that can actually maintain the harmony between the protecting the rights and also fostering the creativity. So, how less creativity, that creativity must be protected. And how do we protect that activity? We need to enact the laws that they can actually make it possible. We don't want a situation as one unless we see because the very same system or the government that is supposed to be protecting and advancing his career, somehow it appeared to be exploiting his music career.
Minister of Trade and Entrepreneurship, Drawn Ntima, acknowledged the challenges facing the industry, noting that only a few artists have been benefiting from government support. To bridge this gap, he stated that a larger portion of the national budget would be allocated to supporting the creative sector, providing much-needed resources for its growth and development.
We have fewer artists who are benefiting from government easily tender, maybe how are appointed directly, and that also brings the gap between those who are doing very well and those that are very low. So those are things that government must really watch out for. Highly competitive, not where a certain artists are picked over others. And then the other thing, the budget. Right now we know for 100 million is earmarked for YDF. So the same budget must also be clear to artists for this amount of money, or 100 million as a match to YDF is strictly reserved for artists. I think what Zeus was raising earlier, when we do our budget, or rather budget for GICC, but we know there's going to be an artist there, but then we don't put a budget for an artist. So something that government needs to be proactive on, not just government, everyone who's going to be engaging artists.
support. To bridge this gap, he stated that a larger portion of the national budget would be allocated to supporting the creative sector, providing much-needed resources for its crew. President Duma Boko has hosted former British Prime Minister Sir Tony Blair during his brief visit to Botswana. The two engaged in discussions regarding potential partnerships in areas such as economic diversification, governance, digitalization, and agriculture.
We face other challenges as we seek to diversify away from just diamonds. Of course, within the mineral sector, we therefore must improve our infrastructure so that we can, as soon as possible, be able to move product from pit to port and access markets. That requires of us a huge investment in infrastructure, rail infrastructure in particular, because we'll be moving bulk. And for this, we look to the private sector to create partnerships that will enable outlays into rail infrastructure and other infrastructure. We're also looking to digitize our economy because these we regard as the pivot points. If we concentrate effort around, in particular, these two, we should then be able to open up more opportunities, create jobs, and grow the economy, and reduce considerably our reliance on diamonds. We also seek to reorganize the way government operates, bring in the requisite agility so that we don't spend too much time thinking about how things should be done, but we devote a substantial amount of our time and energies to getting things done. And so we look to yourself to drive some of these partnerships working together so that we can advance this agenda.
Your vision, Mr. President, for the country is absolutely the right one. I had the opportunity to meet you and discuss with your ministers before this meeting, and I'm delighted to say there's a complete alignment between what they told me was really important and what you've just outlined. And this is a moment of enormous opportunity for Botswana, but with every opportunity comes a challenge, and you've absolutely correctly identified the challenges of diversifying the economy, building the infrastructure, digitization, of course, agriculture, which is so important for the country. And I think the good thing that you've been able to do is to set out a very clear vision for the country and its future. And what we aim to do as an institute is to try and help in turning the vision into the reality, which is always the toughest thing about government. So we are very honored to be here. Myself and my team are delighted if we can be your partner on this journey of change for the country. And Botswana is somewhere I've always wanted to visit and always wanted to work in. So it's a very happy occasion that I'm eventually here and with you.
And when we return after a short break, President Trump unveils a new 25% auto tariff set for next week. Stay with us for more news.
Somebody's thinking. Watching what Razzles does will definitely tell us who she is.
Hey dogs, I'll tell you who I am. I'm the nicest cat you'll ever meet. Yeah, I feel an invention coming home. Yeah, you feel an invention coming.
Go ahead. Come
can't believe this is my life now. I don't know about prominent political family. It's just one person, but okay. I don't feel the pressure. I just do what I love and I just enjoy filming TV, and I just focus so hard on that sometimes I don't even realize what's going on around me. I think there's merit in the things that I've achieved. I think there's merit in the things my father has achieved. And I think while those things are parallel, they don't converge.
Welcome back, and in our international news, several opposition parties in the Democratic Republic of Congo have boycotted the ongoing political consultations initiated by President Felix Tshisekedi aimed at forming a national unity government.
Several opposition parties in the Democratic Republic of Congo have boycotted the ongoing political consultations initiated by President Felix Tshisekedi aimed at forming a national unity government. Speaking to local media, they stated that President Tshisekedi's approach will not resolve the current security crisis, but will instead strengthen a government in crisis of legitimacy. Opposition members assert that they will not support in what they described as a political charade in the forward flight to power. Instead, they back the initiative of an inclusive dialogue as recommended by the bishops of the National Episcopal Conference of Congo. The political party Ensemble Popular République, led by Moise Katumbi, is among those refusing to participate in any other dialogue process parallel to the bishop's initiative. Congo has been marred by several opposition protests in recent weeks, expressing their discontent at the government of President Felix Tshisekedi in handling the conflict in the eastern region, including Goma and Bukavu.
Donald Trump has slapped a whopping 25% tariff on all foreign-built cars in a huge blow to global car manufacturers. The U.S. president has said the car tariff, which will go into effect on April 2, will lead to tremendous growth in the auto industry. The United States is one of the biggest motor markets for many global car giants, including Japanese automakers such as Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and Mazda, who will now be hit hard.
U.S. President Donald Trump said Wednesday that a 25% tariff for imported cars is coming April 3rd, a trade war escalation he's been threatening for weeks. Auto industry experts say the move will drive up prices and stymie production. Nearly half of all cars sold in the U.S. last year were imported, according to research firm Global Data. Trump, who sees tariffs as a way to raise revenue to offset his promised tax cuts and to revive a long-declining U.S. industrial base, spoke about his plan at the White House.
This will continue to spur growth like you haven't seen. Before I was elected, we were losing all of our plants that were being built in Mexico and Canada and other places. Now those plants largely have stopped and they're moving them to our country.
Meanwhile, Trump said in a proclamation he'll grant a reprieve of up to a month for imports of auto parts. They'll be subject to tariffs on a later specified date, but no later than May 3rd. Trump's announcement drew swift condemnation from the European Union, and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney called it a direct attack on Canadian workers.
We will defend our workers. We will defend our companies. We will defend our country, and we will defend it together.
The U.S. imported $474 billion worth of automotive products in 2024, including $220 billion in passenger cars. The biggest suppliers were all close U.S. allies: Mexico, Japan, South Korea, Canada, and Germany. In Asia morning trade Thursday, automakers led losses on the Tokyo Stock Price Index. Toyota shares lost more than 3% to become the biggest drag, while Honda and Nissan also fell. Meanwhile, Mazda shares fell 6.4% to become one of the worst performers in the Nikkei. The Center for Automotive Research says the new vehicle levies are likely to drive costs of cars higher for consumers by thousands of dollars. They say it will hit new vehicle sales and result in job losses, since the U.S. automotive industry relies heavily on imported parts. The auto tariffs will follow the day after April 2nd, when Trump is also expected to announce global reciprocal tariffs. Those are aimed at the countries responsible for the bulk of the U.S. trade deficit. However, the U.S. president said on Wednesday the measures may not be the like-for-like levies he has been pledging to impose.
No, we're going to make it all countries, and we're going to make it very lenient. I think people are going to be very surprised. It'll be, in many cases, less than the tariff that they've been charging us for decades.
Since taking office on January 20th, Trump has announced and delayed tariffs on Canada and Mexico for what he alleges is their role in allowing the opioid fentanyl into the U.S. He also set tariffs on goods from China for the same reason.
Now taking a look at business news. In a bid to foster a resilient business ecosystem and support sustainable economic growth, First Capital Bank hosted an entrepreneurs meet aimed at empowering local entrepreneurs and strengthening the country's business landscape.
I would say in addition, we work with many organizations in the ecosystem. We're not ending the cycle of global poverty alone. We work with banks, equity investors to connect them to our companies so that those companies can have access to capital, working capital, CapEx, equity investment to grow and implement their growth plans. So we're not doing this all alone, but we're trying to connect entrepreneurs with entrepreneurs and networks with networks. And I think by connecting them all and having a shared vision for what we're trying to do, I think that's what can create that thriving ecosystem that you're talking about. I think here in Botswana, there are challenges facing the entrepreneurs here. I think primarily small market. So in order to grow, either you're introducing new products or services or value propositions to your customers here in Botswana, or you're expanding. I think first is professionalizing your organization and clarifying your strategy. What value are you delivering to your customers? How can you accentuate that value and innovate your products and services to capture more of that value in the marketplace, whether that be here in Botswana or abroad? Through our program, there's an opportunity to penetrate new markets, as I mentioned earlier, and to explore partnerships with other companies that are going through the program. So I think, again, it's also about your mindset, right? You need to professionalize your organization, your strategy, have access to a network, but you need to believe in yourself and be audacious and go out and try to tap into those new markets. And I think that's something that's needed here in Botswana, and we're seeing it happen with the 60-plus companies that have gone through the program already.
Coming up next is the sports update.
I swear to you, Dstv is like the funniest person ever. So the first thing we're going to do is he's just going to warm up. And
we do away with being connected to the source, to the main source. Yeah. You know, only when you are connected to the source, then you will know what your purpose is. You know what you're supposed to do.
Now taking a look at the world of sports, with the dates for the 4th edition of Summer Kids Marathon approaching, Absa Botswana yesterday at a press conference announced a sponsorship extension of a whopping sum of 1.9 million pula for a period of 3 years as the title sponsor. The prestigious event for kids aged between 2 to 16 years is slated for April 26 in Gaborone, and its activations countrywide are still ongoing as their aim is to increase numbers of participants, with 950 registered so far.
It is an honor to stand before you today as we celebrate this noble initiative, as we always say at the Summer Kids Marathon. This is the Absa Summer Kids Marathon, which returns for its 4th season, bigger and better than ever. The Summer Kids Marathon is a non-competitive fun run designed for children aged 2 to 16 years. This initiative promotes health, fitness, and overall well-being, while fostering an environment for children from diverse backgrounds to engage in recreation and social interaction. Founded by Felmo Sports Agency under the leadership of myself and Mr. Mwahi Madisa, the marathon continues to make meaningful impact by encouraging both mental and physical wellness amongst children. From a modest 320 participants in its inaugural year, that is 2022, we have seen remarkable growth. 580 participants in 2023, then it was 1,231 kids in 2024. You know why we are saying 2024? Because it was a very special year for us. And this year we aim for an ambitious 1,550 kids at the main event, scheduled for April 26, 2025 at 3 Lukosi Monument in Gaborone, CBD.
We're back, 2025, for another round. And I remember last year when we spoke, we said we would be back. And I'm so excited that we are back for yet another edition of the Absa Summer Kids Marathon. And what a pleasure and privilege it has been to be a part of this journey. Because for us, it's a journey that speaks to how we empower future generations. And that's a core part of what we stand for as Absa. And when we look at this sponsorship, from where we look at it, it is not just a sponsorship. I think it's one of the sponsorship for me that gives. And if there is one sponsorship we do that's very live in my household, it is this one. As we come back, we've extended our sponsorship for a further 3 years. And I remember last year, that was one of the burning questions, like, Absa, how are you in just for now? And we said, no, we are in for the long haul. So we've extended it for another 3 years. And as we extend it for another 3 years, we have also come to the table with an investment of about 1.9 million pula to put behind this partnership. And that's just for the direct sponsorship. We've also realized that there's a lot of work that needs to go out to activating, to raising awareness. And behind that, we do a lot. Martin comes to us and says, give the children something. So behind all of the activations, we also dig a little bit deeper. And we find, I think, Rafna, we estimate that we'll find another maybe million or so that will go behind. It's not going to be in the title sponsorship. It will be for all these other things that go behind making an initiative successful and giving this very deserving initiative the public relations and the PR and the publicity that it deserves, so everybody in Botswana and beyond can get to know.
Sepp Blatter and Michael Platini were acquitted again in a Swiss corruption case involving over $2 million in FIFA funds. The appeals court upheld their 2022 acquittal, ending a decade-long legal battle. Blatter, who is 89 years old, showed little reaction but later smiled and embraced his daughter.
Former FIFA President Sepp Blatter and ex-UEFA chief Michel Platini were acquitted for the second time on Tuesday against Swiss federal prosecutors. The two have faced a protracted legal struggle for a decade involving corruption and misuse of over $2 million from 2011. It's a great relief for me because it's been going on for 10 years. It's like a Damocles sword hanging over my head. Always refusals, yes, but you are not very clear, always accused of something. Now it's the end. I can breathe. I am very happy for that, but also for my family, my friends, and for all the work I did at FIFA, and for all the football players who always supported me and continue to support me. Well, I am relieved. I am relieved. And I say that the prosecution of the FIFA by some Swiss federal prosecutors that lasted 10 years is now completely over. I am relieved. I have my honor back. I will be at peace now. Blatter and Platini were acquitted of fraud charges in 2022, but Swiss federal prosecutors subsequently appealed the decision. This ongoing legal saga began in 2015 when FIFA faced serious allegations of fraud and corruption, culminating in a dramatic raid in Zurich as part of a different investigation by US authorities.
That's all the news we had for you tonight. Thank you once again for watching YTV. From myself and the rest of the YTV News team, good night.